This is Gemara Pesachim Daf Mem Hey. All the learning for the month of Tevis has been sponsored as a special Chosi L'Neshama Falei Rasha Bas Arya Leib, as well as Chosi L'Neshama Farya Leib Ben Yaakov the Neshama Shem and Aliyah. This Chosi the entire Chabura Shvias Chosi L'Neshmasam. Of course, all the Chelim Chaim Pinchos Ben Malki Demir Ben Akir Men Ben Chaim Ben Sar Shalom Simon Reizel Sar Bas Knendel Ita Basim Bas Chayzayus Chaim Sarasi Yosol Ben Mitel Yad the President Shavalei Shom Ben Naomi Shafigo Shiva Chana Faldiva Yiteriva Shmal Ben Tehila Daniel Ben Chana Reizel Yuda Arya Ben Yitali Baruch Bas Musa Chil Huva, Israel, and yes, Baruch Hashem, some chilim have been removed. Psiat Shmai, incredible recovery. We're looking forward to moving more and more chilim. We pick it up in the bottom of Memdalit Amud Beis. But before we begin, we really have to do a very quick recap, which will segue directly into the first half of today's Gemara. Yesterday, we had a tremendous daf, a daf that had huge Yeridea concepts, huge concepts of Isser v'Heter, the concept of Heter Mitzaref l'Isser, the concept of Kezayis v'Chdei Chilas Bras, and the concept of Tam Ke'ikr. The basic machlekes we have to remember right now is we have the opinion of Rav Yochanan. Rav Yochanan learned out from Misraf, just like Rav Akiva, that is a din by Nazir Heter Mitzaref l'Isser. A din, a localized, specific, only by Nazir, not Kol Kula. The Rabbanan came along and the Rabbanan argued, and the Rabbanan said that Pasuk of Misraf is there to teach us Tam Ke'ikr, that the taste of something, even though there's not an actual Isser there, but that taste is a din of Ikr. The Rabbanan learned that out, that's from Mishras, which is by Nazir, but we learn it out to Kol Kula. So the parallel is really stark when you look at it like this. Rav Akiva learns out Mishras, Nazir, Heter Mitzaref l'Isser, only Nazir. The Rabbanan learn out Mishras, Nazir, Tam Kicker, Kol Kula. What's going on over here? Just like the Rabbanan learned out a pasuk by Nazir to Kol Kula, why don't the Rav Akiva learn out a pasuk by Nazir to Kol Kula? Just like according to the Rabbanan, Tam Kicker applies everywhere. According to Rav Akiva, why doesn't Heter Mitzaref l'Isser apply to everywhere? Says the Gemara, the bottom of Dalam Abiz, Amalei Rav Acha, Rav Avia. The Rav Ashi, Midrabanan is Rav Akiva. For the way the Rabbanan learned out, we should learn Rav Akiva. Now the Gemara explains, Milo Amir Rabbanan, the Rabbanan not saying Mishras Litin Tam Ke'ikr. The pasuk of Mishras infused, the pasuk by Nazir, teaches us Tam Ke'ikr. Then we have that cup, you put the grapes inside. Even though right now the grapes are not there, but as the taste, that's called Tam Ke'ikr. Mikana Tadan Chalisur Shabbatera. We learned that from there to all these surah, because he said Nazir is something that doesn't last. It's a short Isser. Nazir is something which does not have an Isra Hana. And yeah, we're seeing Tam Ke'ikr, certainly Kol Kula, we should say which Isra does last, and it has an Isra Hana. It should be that way. So just like the Rabbanan learned that the din from Nazir of Tam Ke'ikr to Kol Kula, ask the Gemara, L'Rav Akiva Nami, Mishas La'eter Mitzaref L'Isr, Mekanat Tadan L'Chalisur Shabbatera Kula. Why is Rav Akiva's din of Heter Mitzaref L'Isr, which he also learns out from Mishras by Nazir, any different? Amar Le, he responds, moving along to today's Daf, Memhei Amar Aleph, Mishom Navi Nazir V'chata and of course, we know that the rule is basically, says Gemara, theoretically you'd be right that according to Akiva we'd be able to learn how this din of Heter Mitzaref l'Isser should be a din not only by Nazir, should really be a din by Kol Kula, but says the Gemara, Shnei Kesuvim, it says by Nazir, it says by Chatas, as we're going to see right now, and therefore we cannot learn it out to Kol Kula. As the Gemara explains, Nazir Hadamar Chatas Mahi the time to the Raisa. Kol Shayiga Bibisara Yakdish V'Kaimer. Anything that touches the flesh of the garment Chatas should become holy like the Chatas itself. Yoch everything I feel Loi Polo didn't absorb Tamleimer Bibisara Yakdish. Actually Yivla Bibisara has to get absorbed in Yakdish. Liyas Kemayu has to be like it. That one explains the Raisa. Shepesula He Tifsal. That if the item is possible, then the item that touched it will also be possible. Vim Keshera Yitaichel Kechamer Shabbat. He'll have to be eaten like the Chamer of him, meaning that all the dinim of the carbon chatos, it can only eat in one night, one day, etc., will transmit the dinim to the item that touches that thing. So what do we see? We see that the din of Heter Mitzaref l'Isser. Now, how we see the din of Heter Mitzaref l'Isser from these psukim, big machlekes Rishonim, but we see the din of Heter Mitzaref l'Isser, says the Pashup Shat, from these psukim, and this is the din by chatos. We have the Torah says by chatos, the Torah says by Nazir, and we know that more is less. anything the Torah says specifically by two places, we say it's only those two places and nowhere else. So what's the obvious question now? V'Rabbanan, ping pong back. V'Rabbanan amin e'avei nazir v'chadash nexu by kachavei melamdim. How could the Chachamim say that tam ki'ikr is something that says by nazir, and we learn it out to all the Torah kula? Why don't we say the same thing? Shnei ksuvim by kachad. It's by nazir. It's by chatas, and we can't learn it out anywhere else. Which obviously, if people are following, it's a little bit difficult. The Gemara a moment ago said it's a pasuk by heter misaref iser. Now we're saying the same pasuk by chatas is tam ki'ikr. Could be the Gemara saying that according to the Rabbanan that they learned the pasuk of Mishras, teaching me tam ki'ikr, we assume they'll say the same thing by chatas. We should definitely discuss this. Let's get Pashib Shat. Says the Gemara. What are the Chachamim going to answer? Amri Hanu Mitzrach Srichi. No, we need these two psukim. Meaning, the whole rule of Shnei Ksuvim B'Yim Ke'echad is when the Torah goes out of its way, it did not have to write this din twice. It went out of its way and wrote this din twice, teaches me only here and nowhere else. See the Chachamim, if I'm going to prove to you, which Gemara will prove in a moment, that there's a reason why the Torah had to write this din of Kam Ge'ikr, both by Nazir and by Chatos, so then we could theoretically learn it out to call that Torah Kula. But now what do we have to say? Ping pong back. Rav Akiva, what's he going to say? Rav Akiva might tzrichi. Rav Akiva's going to say, the Torah did not have to write it by Nazir and Chatos. Bishlama yikaz rachmana bechatos. If it said the din of, now we're in Rav Akiva's world, heter mitzaref l'eser. If it would have said the din by Chatos, lo gamrim nazir min hey, I would not be able to learn Nazir from it. I understand why. The chulim yikach lo gamrinon. Because we cannot learn out chulin nazir, which is chulin from kachin the karban chatas, that we can't learn out. Ella says Rav Akiva, lech lerachmana bin nazir. So the Torah should have only said this din by nazir v'teizi chatas v'tigra minei, and then we should have learned the chatas from it. The kol Torah kagav min nazir, as you the Rabbanan explained, we're able to learn out kol yisurin from nazir, and the Torah did not do that. Says Rav Akiva. Just like we know we have a double kavul chaymer. Nazir is not Yisraelim. Nazir is not Yisrael now. So you should be able to learn out from Nazir. Says Rav Akiva, so why did the Torah go out of the way and write it also by Chatas? It must be to teach us and not in Kol Torah Kula. Must be because Sheikh Suvaman Gachad, it's only special by case A and case B, case Nazir, case Chatas, and not Kol Torah Kula. For Rabbanan, what are they going to say? Amr L'chad says the Rabbanan, Mitzrach Shrichi, no, we need these two psukim. Why? Chatos, Lahetem Esaref L'Isser. Because according to the Chachamim, they need another pasuk. Because where are we holding till now? The Chachamim don't know Lahetem Esaref L'Isser. Why not? Because they use a pasuk of Mishras to teach me Tam Ke'ikr. Rav Akiva had a pasuk of Mishras for Heter Mizaref L'Isser. He learned out Tam Ke'ikr. We learned out yesterday from Gulei Nachum, a different din. But according to the Rabbanan, what are they going to do with the pasuk of Mishras? They're learning for Heter Mizaref L'Isser. That's one pasuk. And the second, and V'chulim Mikachin Lo Gamar. And it's going to be a localized din by Nazir, which we can't learn out everywhere else. Mishras. And the pasuk of Mishras lead to Tam Ke'ikr. According to Chachamim, that teaches me Tam Ke'ikr. Mikana the Don Kula, we can turn it out to everywhere. For Rav Akiva, what is Rav Akiva going to say? Tarvayu Later Mizaref L'Isser. We need both psukim for Heter Mizaref L'Isser, and therefore what? Just to finish up, and then we'll speak out what the end result is. Anything that you make from the grapes from the shells into the pits. Limit al Isser Nazir. It teaches us about a Nazir. Shemitzarfin Zazad. That we combine the shiurim. Hashal Rav Akiva Isser V'Heter Mitzarfim. According to Rav Akiva, I understand Isser V'Heter is Mitzarfim. Meaning, if like we spoke about yesterday, we have a half a gzais of grapes, a half a gzais of bread, and then you eat them together. A Heter Mitzarfim Isser. It's considered as if the Nazir eat a full gzais of grapes. Says the Gemara. Isser V'Isser Mibai. How do we know two different Isurim are combining? Says Rav Akiva. Amalei Isser V'Heter. It's a different chiddush. Chiddush of Isser V'Heter is that when you eat them together, you put them in your mouth, a half a gzais of grape and a half a gzais of bread. The chiddush of here is Isser V'Isser is V'Zacher Zed. That if I eat a half a gzais of grape skins, half a gzais of grapes, but I eat it within the requisite time, the 4 to 9 minutes, they also combine. That is the end of the Gemara. Now, if anyone has been doing math, it comes out something absolutely fascinating. What is the din of Tam Ke'eker, according to both Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim, it applies to Kol Kula. Where do they learn it out from? Let's chazer. According to Rabbi Kiva, they learned it out from Gulei Nachem. The pasuk by Midian says the Kalim, they had a kasha the Kalim. Must be there's nothing inside, it's just a tam, it's just a taste. A bad taste, says Rabbi Kiva. Says the Gemara, no, it's a good taste because within 24 hours, I'm sorry. Okay, but Rabbi Kiva learned out from Gulei Nachem that what's the din? Tam Ke'eker, Kol Kula. Says the Chachamim, Tam Ke'eker, I agree, it's Kol Kula. Where do the Chachamim learn that out from? Mishras. So far, with regard to the dim of Tam Ke'ikr, there is no machlekes Rabbi Kiva the Chachamim. There's just a machlekes where you learn it out from. Rabbi Kiva says from Gulei Nachem, the Chachamim saying from Mishras. Next thing, what about the din of Heter Mitzaref Le'Iser? Both Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim both agree again that Heter Mitzaref Le'Iser does not apply to Kol HaTorah Kula. Why not? Rabbi Kiva says it applies from where? From Mishras, only to the din of Nazir and one other place, Chatas. According to the Chachamim, where do they say? They say they learn it out only from Chatas, Heter Mitzaref Le'Iser. So what comes out? What comes out is absolutely fascinating. According to Rav Kiva and the Chachamim, Heter Mitzaref Le'Iser applies to Chatas. There's one case after this tremendous discussion that they're arguing. Is there a din of Heter Mitzaref Le'Iser by Nazir? Rav Kiva says yes. The Chachamim say no. They both agree it does not apply to Kol HaTorah Kula. They both agree that Tam Ke'ikr yes applies to Kol HaTorah Kula. Just they learned out from two different places. Rav Kiva from Gulei Nachem and the Chachamim from Mishras. Says the Gemara, moving along, new sugya, says the Mishnah on the bottom of Hey Ralph. Continuing, which chametz you have to get rid of? You have some dough on the bottom of the mixing trough. If you have kazayis of dough, chayiv levar, got to get rid of it. It's batal. The same thing as regard to tumah, as we'll explain. If you care about it, it becomes a chatzitza. Comes it into position. It comes that it blocks the water from going in. If you want it there, it's considered like the mixing bowl itself. Again, all these things we will explain in the Gemara. As Rashi over here says, Mefarish Gemara says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel Leishanu Ela b'makim she'ein asuyin lechazik. To L'Shaine's first lashon says Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, the din in the Mishnah is only where there's this dough is found in the crack of this mixing trough she'ein asuyin lechazik. It's not in a part of the crack of the kli which is strengthening the kli. Let's go back to primitive earthenware vessel. There are cracks in this vessel, so if you have something stuck into the crack, that's great. It holds the vessel together strong. So if this dough, says Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, is in a place where it does not give the kli strength, it's on, let's say, the side of the wall or something like that, then that's when the Mishnah says that if it's a kazayis, but if it's in a place where it gives the kli strength, like at the bottom of it, it prevents leaks, then you don't have to be mavar it. Why not? Because you don't care about it. Meaning the fact that it's giving strength to the kli makes it part of the kli, but it's not considered chametz. It's considered part of the kli, so I don't have to get rid of it. Mechlal, says the Gemara. So what's the inference of this din of Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel? Says the Gemara, Mechlal. If it's less than a kazayis, even it's in a place where it's not being mechazik the kli, like on the upper wall, that's not the din of Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, and that din you don't have to get rid of it. When do we discussing have to get rid of it? When it's in a place where yes, give strength to the kli. That's only going to be if it's a kazayis. But if it's less than a kazayis, in a place where it does not give strength to the kli, you're allowed to leave it there. We don't care about it. First lashon. Second lashon. Igid Yarmi says the Gemara. Igid Damasla Seifa. There's some learn on the Seifa. The one of the Seifa say. Ve'im la bottom said in the Mishnah that if it's not there, v'im lav, if it's not a kazayis, I'm sorry, that it is batal. What is this din of it's not a kazayis? Oh, Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Again, this is second lashon. Lo ishanu, this din of not a kazayis. El b'makom ha'asui lechazik. It's only a place where you want to be mechazik. Again, what did the Mishnah say? That if it's not a kazayis, it's batal b'meutai. Says Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, that's only b'makom ha'asui lechazik. Less than a kazayis in a place where strength is the kli. That's going to be batal because it's part of the kli. If it's a place where it's not giving strength to the kli, ironically, chayiv levar, you have to get rid of it. Mechlal, what's the inference now? The kazayis afil b'makom hasui lechazik, chayiv levar. Now we see the opposite extreme. Now it's a chumrah that if it's in a place where it yes gives the kli strength, so we would think you don't care. It's not called chametz. That's called kli. It's glue. It's holding the kli together. But no, that's only a din and not a kazayis. But if it's a kazayis, then it's not going to be true, and you're going to have to get rid of it. Machlekes tu l'shaynes. First lashon lashon says it's a din not a kazayis, and therefore it comes out not a kazayis, where it does not give strength to the kli that you could leave. The first din is when it's yes a kazayis. When it's yes a kazayis, in a place we give strength to the kli. But if it's not giving strength to the kli, you can only leave it if it's less than kazayis. The second lashon says the Gemara is the exact opposite. We're talking where it's not a kazayis. Mechlal, the two inferences are the opposite. In the second lashon we say mechlal, the kazayis, if it's actual kazayis, even in a place where it gives strength, which you would think it's glue, leave it there. Who cares? It's part of the trough. Chayiv levayer. Says the Gemara, two different lashonos. Now we're going to have rayas to both. Tani k'lishnei kama, tani k'lishnei baso. And it's basically going to be a repetitive of what we just said. Says the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Tani Kalishna Kama, 4 lines on the bottom. Batzing Ship Sitka, Rave of the dough in the cracks of the mixing jar, Makamasu Lachazik. If it's there to strengthen the Kli, Ain't a Chaitzitz. Then it's not a chatzitza. Oiver, and you're not oiver. Why you're not oiver? Because it's makam asli lechazik. It's strengthening the kli. It becomes part of the utensil. Ubim makim she'ein asli lechazik. The brisa now continues. If it's in a place where it's not made to strengthen the kli, chaytitz is yes chatzitza oiver, and you're yes oiver. But med devarim amurim b'kazayis. This din is only by a kazayis. Again, this is a right to the first lashon. Avol bachas megazayis. Afilu makim she'ein asli lechazik. Ein chaytitz ve'ein oiver. You could leave it there. That is a raya to the first lashon. Tani k'lish tabasser. Now we have a raya to the second lashon. Bas l'ship sit gareva. The dough in the cracks of the mixing trough. The makom asel chazik, in a place that is there to give the utensil strength. Ein a chaytzitz. It's not a chatzitza of ein oiver as we move along to memheamid beis, and you're not oiver for having it on Pesach. But makom she'ein asel chazik chaytzitz v'oiver. Medvar mamurim again. That's a raya to the second lashon. Medvar mamurim when it's only bachas because I feel b'makom asel chazik. Then it's going to be a chiddush l'chumra that it's yes going to be over. Why is it going to be over? I is part of the utensil because it's like a zayis. The way to say it basically would be that the first lashon is focusing more on the fact that it's giving strength to the kli or not, and therefore we're saying as long as it's not giving strength to the kli, less than exercise is going to be okay. And the second lashon is focusing on the shear. Second lashon says once it's exercise, even if it's giving strength to the kli, it's still going to be yes a problem. Says the Gemara, Kashan Hadadi, Simuli Astira, Amar Avuna, Sami Kilta Makmicha Mirta. First Tarit says the Gemara, 4 lines down in the Mehamid base. Get rid of the kula, get rid of the first lashon, leave the second lashon. Rav Yosef Amar, second Tarit, Tanoi Shekalta Malma. What, you want to race all the machlekes tanaim? What's the problem? It's a machlekes tanaim. What's bothering you? It's a machlekes tanaim, so just leave it. 2 different brises, 2 different ways of learning. It's all good. And now the Gemara proves that point. Tanai, it's a machlekes tanaim. The Tani learned in a brisa. Hapaz she'if shamoldi bread chayiv levar. You got to get rid of it. Because what could you use with the moldy bread? You could grind it up, and you could use it as yeast. And you could use it in a yeast for another dough. Rav Shimon a Lazar Aimer a second Tana. But when is this din? Only when it sticks around when you keep the dough, keep the bread. You're going to eat it. Avol, but in the case Avol koifes sa'ar, but if you're using this leftover dough as a koifes sa'ar sheyachdali yeshiva, if you're flipping it upside down and using to sit on it, then it's yes going to be batal. Again, we have this chametz which is moldy, and the question is at what level you have to be concerned with it. So the first the first opinion taught us what? The first opinion said moldy bread, you have to get rid of it. Why? Because you could use it as yeast, etc. Shimon Elazar says no, that's only if you're saving it for eating purposes. But if you're saving it to sit on top of it, you're saving the moldy bread, it's a hard brick, you're using it as literally a brick, then you don't have to worry about it. Says the Gemara, and the first white line, with the Amr of Shimon Elazar, for the fact of Shimon Elazar says Bala, that is going to be bottle when you're using it as a chair. Chal Tanakama Savar, Loi bottle. Tanakama says it's not bottle. Again, we're dealing with moldy bread, and yet the Tanakama says it's not bottle. Alma explains the Gemara because our kol kizayis aval gad mavato loy bottle. What does the Tanakama hold? Even though You have no usage. It's moldy. It's gross. But it's a kazayis. Once you have a kazayis, this is actually a very important rule when it comes to all hilchas of chametz. That once it's a kazayis, the rules change. Once the kazayis says the Tanakam, you got to be worried. That's a piece of bread. It's moldy. It's this. I don't care. It's a piece of bread. Okay, you explain me one brisa. Pachs mekazayis mi terasa, but you didn't explain me the second brisa. Pachs mekazayis. Elo, says the Gemara. You're right. So this is not the answer. Again, we're trying to explain and reconcile the two brisas, which were the two lashinas in the way that we explained the Gemara. When we have these pieces of dough that are stuck into the vessel, they're there to strengthen the kli. At what level we have to be concerned? The first lashon said less than a kazayis in the walls, no concern. Second lashon said more than a kazayis in the floor, yes, a concern. Says the Gemara, Rav Shimon Elazar. They're both going within the opinion of Rav Shimon Elazar like kasha. Says the Gemara, we're changing course. Until now, we were discussing. If it's in the vessel, we seemingly thought it's strengthening the vessel, it's making the vessel not leak, etc. Now we're saying, no, is the vessel aiding in the dough? Is it the makim lisha, which obviously is going to be a much broader concept, which means when you need the dough, the walls are also now doing something. Before we thought is it holding it stark, meaning is it on the bottom of the vessel, is it preventing a leak from going through? Now we're saying, no, even the walls will be considered affecting and aiding in the dough. Why? Because the walls help you knead it all the way up until you get to the lip of the vessel. That is the answer. Says the Gemara that we're all going within the opinion of Rav Shimon ben Elazar. Amar Rav Ashi, don't tell me when it's not in the place of kneading agva da agna that it's on the topmost part of the kli. Ella, what are we talking about? Ashivsa da agna, the lip of the kli. That's the case that we're discussing. Says Gemara Pshita, of course. No, maybe sometimes as you need it, it goes all the way up to the lip. Kamash Milan, that's called something which is auxiliary and is not eating into the kneading process. Amar Nachman, now we get a Pesach halacha. Amar Rav halacha, Rav Shimon Elazar. Says Gemara, is that true of Amar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Rashi? Amar Rav, imtach banel betit batla. That if you smear the top of the dough, going back in the case that we had in the first wide line, that you took this moldy dough, you flip it over as a chair. Says this Bryce, if you're tach banel, if you smear some lime on it, you mamish made it into a chair. That's when it's batla. What do we see? Tach in only when you smeared it, loy tach loy. But if you didn't smear it, not. Says the Gemara, man masni, who is this? Man de masni ha, lo masni ha. No, it's not a stira different man marayim. Iket yamri, a second terrace. Amram Nachman, Amrav, Ino, Rav Shimon Elazar. The exact opposite. We're not passing Rav Shimon Elazar. Why? Dam Rav Yitzchak bar Rashi, Amrav, Dem Tach Banav Betit, Bala v'chulu. And that is how the Gemara concludes how we're going to answer up these two brises and the machlokes tanoim. Amrav Nachman, says the Gemara, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shmuel, Shnei Chatzoi Zizim, 2 halves of his olive worths, V'chutzal Botek B'neiam, and there's a string of the dough between them, Royin. You know we see if these two doughs combine? Says the Gemara, Royin Kol She'ilu Yinat Lachot V'nalini Mai, that if you grab one half and the other half is going to come with it, Chayiv Levar. You have 2 pieces of dough, 2 halves Zaisim, but there's a little stringy dough in between. So do we say that when you pull it, sometimes, you know, like that challah dough Friday night, it's unfortunately a little bit too unbaked, so you got to do the whole test, got to hold one end, see if the other end falls off. It's a similar concept. We say that if you pull it, will it pull with that string? If yes, then it's considered one entity and a chayiv levayir. Vim lavin a chayiv levayir. Amar Ula, now Ula comes along and he explains, Lo Yamar, and this din is only Ela ba'areva. Avlo bebayi is chayiv levayir. Says Ula, don't make a mistake. This is only a din in the mixing trough. But if it's within your whole house, then you have to get rid of it. Could be one would have thought the opposite because the mixing trough is a smaller vessel. Let Ula explain my time. Sometimes you can be cleaning up, you're going to mix them over, and they're going to come to fall one on top of the other. So when it's within a vessel, we're not worried. Within your whole house, then you guys have to be concerned. Amar Ula says, Ula Baima Rabba, Bais Valia Mau, Bais Vaksaja Mau, Shtei Batim Zelim Mizal Mau. So I just told you it's within one house. Says Ula, what if it's 2 different rooms? What if it's a house and an attic? What if it's a house and a pavilion? Then are we concerned that one will come and fall on top of the other and thereby be mitzaref to the Shiur? Says the Gemara, Teiku, gotta wait for Mashiach, gotta wait for Eliyahu Navi. For that answer, let's just begin the next brisa and then we'll call it a day. Says the Gemara, Tanur Rabbanan. Habaz she'ifsha the moldy bread nifsla me'achla adam and no one can eat it. Va'akelim nor can a dog eat a yachla. I'm sorry, dog can yes eat a yachla achla. What's It is Tamei, Bekabeya the Shirva Beya. V'nisrav is Emat Tameya, and you got to burn it, and you're allowed to burn it with something. Tamei v'Pesach. Misharam Nasan Amru. Eina Mitamo, it's not Mitame. Says Gemara, you know what? We're going to pick it up from this Brayse, Mirz Hashem, tomorrow.